I'll talk a little bit about magic, and I'll tell you how it works according to two theories: the old theory and the new theory. The old theory is started before anyone began to count or think about time. It works through the intermediary of spirits. These are unseen entities with whom one can theoretically interact. Some of them are nice, some of them are not so nice, but if you kind of play your cards right, you can get them to do things for you. Or you can get them to do things to other people if that is your desire. As I say, this is an extraordinarily common belief. Now, the technical term for this kind of magic is goetia. G-O-E-T-I-A, which is a Greek word for sorcery. And what does it mean? It means basically what I just told you. And a lot of these things are about conjuring up spirits. There was a famous Italian sculptor in the 16th century named Benvenuto Cellini, who wrote a very famous autobiography. And in it, he describes the time he makes contact with a Sicilian priest. And a lot of the occultists of the early modern era were priests who didn't have a lot to do or couldn't really quite get employment as priests. And the practice of magical ritual is not really all that different from the Eucharist and this and that. So it's kind of a natural kind of career fit. But anyway, he got together with the Sicilian priest and he said, well, can you show me something? Yeah, I can show you this. So they got together in the Roman Colosseum. And Cellini's account of it is very weird because there's an assistant there, one or two assistants. And this is what Cellini says. Suddenly the whole place was filled with spirits. The assistant was like shaking his hand. I thought he was going to, drop the candle he was supposed to be holding. It was just absolutely terrifying. Now, one thing he does not mention in this account, which would be the most interesting thing of all, is what these spirits looked like. Did they really materialize like more or less humanoid forms? Were they like smoke? Did they look like Casper the Friendly Ghost? He doesn't tell us. And I find the subject enormously interesting. And the answers you get to it are rather oblique. So this was how it worked in the old days. Still does. But in the 1850s, a Frenchman named Eliphas Lévy published a book called, in English is Doctrine and Ritual of High Magic. And Lévy's view of it was a little bit different than the old one. Lévy, in fact, did try to conjure up a spirit of two. I think he tried to conjure up the spirit of the Greek sage Apollonius of Tyana. But he had another angle on it too. And it's had to do with something called the astral light. Now the astral light, and those of you who are Theosophists will notice that Madame Blavatsky uses this term. Well, where did she get it from? She got it from, among other people, Eliphas Lévy. And what is the astral life? Well, it's like matter, except it's not matter. It is such stuff as dreams are made of. That is to say, just for a second, picture a green lion. Can you imagine a green lion, some form or another? Well, notice something. Green lions don't really exist. But there is some kind of image that you have in your mind, and you could say it is made of a kind of mind stuff. Well, let's say you're kind of the creative type. Hey, I kind of like this idea of this green lion, and you happen to be good at drawing, right? So you start drawing sketches of this green lion, and you have friends in Hollywood, and suddenly you've sold a very lucrative animated series about something that doesn't even exist, as we've all admitted, as you yourself admit. So thoughts have power, and I'll get back to this point in more than one way as the subject goes on. But the magical theory is this, that you can concentrate on this image in your mind and make it real, at least to the extent that it will start to have kinds of visible effects. The most famous case of this that I know of was by a Frenchman named Alexandre Davinel, who was, unlike any other European, and certainly any other European woman, managed to get into Tibet in the early part of the 20th century. Tibet was completely closed to outsiders. And somehow she got in and she started studying with these lamas and wrote books about what she learned, and she learned through practice. And one of these things was visualization. And one of these practices was visualization of a tulpa. And a tulpa is one of these thoughts that has, shall we say, manifested in material form, or apparently material form. And the form she concentrated on was that of a Tibetan monk. And eventually this monk really started to show up, or some kind of simulacrum of this monk. And this monk started to give her problems. He was kind of a, you know, kind of a mischievous creation. It's a very common theme in magic that your creations kind of get out of whack. And I'll tell you another story or two about that before the night is done. So she had to go through the reverse process. She had to disassemble this tulpa she had created. And, you know, the work doing that was harder than the work of creating him to begin with. Now, that's an extreme case. Does that sort of thing happen in the West? Well, maybe, maybe not.